Can you actually get in trouble for not reporting a car accident in New Jersey? Well, the answer is yes, but not every accident has to be reported. The problem is that many drivers don't know where the line is until they're holding a failure to report an accident ticket in their hand. If you've been in an accident and you're wondering whether you were supposed to report it, this video is for you. In the next few minutes, I'll answer the three questions that matter most if you've been involved in an accident here in New Jersey. First, I'll explain when the law actually requires you to report an accident, because not every accident has to be reported. Next, I'll talk about what can happen if you didn't report it, including the penalties you could be facing. And finally, I'll explain what you should do now if you think you may have already made a mistake. Before we're done, I'll also explain why many drivers who receive this ticket are surprised to find themselves facing a second, much more serious charge. One of the most common things I hear from clients is, "I didn't think I had to report it." And honestly, I understand why. Most people make a decision based on what they can see at the scene. Think about this. Have you ever dropped your phone, picked it up, and thought, "Great, I got lucky. Everything looks fine." Then a few hours later, the screen starts flickering, the touch screen stops working, or you notice a crack you didn't see before. Car accidents work the same way. What looks like a minor bump can hide thousands of dollars in damage behind the bumper. Damage you simply can't see while you're standing on the side of the road. That's exactly why so many people get this wrong, and it's one of the reasons New Jersey has accident reporting laws. So let's start with the first question. When does New Jersey actually require you to report an accident? The good news is that not every accident has to be reported. The current damage threshold under the statute is $500 in damages. But if it appears that the damage to one or more vehicles exceeds the amount set by New Jersey law, or if anyone is injured or killed, you're required to report the accident to the police. The problem is that it's often impossible to estimate accurately repair costs at the scene. Modern vehicles have much more than painted bumpers. They have sensors, cameras, radar equipment, bumper reinforcements, and other expensive components hidden underneath. What looks like a small scratch or dent can easily turn into a repair bill that exceeds the legal reporting threshold. There's another misconception that I want to clear up. Just because the other driver didn't call the police doesn't mean you had no obligation to do so. Your legal responsibilities aren't determined by what the other driver decides to do. So, what happens if you don't report an accident when you're required to? A failure to report an accident charge is a traffic offense, and if you're found guilty, you can face a fine of $30 to $100, a possible jail sentence of up to 15 days, and even a possible suspension of your driver's license by the Motor Vehicle Commission. Those are the penalties authorized by law, although every case is different and the outcome depends on the specific facts. It's also important to understand that failing to report an accident is not the same thing as causing the accident. Whether you were at fault for the crash and whether you had a legal duty to report it are two separate issues. You can receive a ticket for failing to report an accident even if the accident itself wasn't your fault. Now, here's where many people are caught off guard. They think the failure to report ticket is their biggest problem. Often it isn't. In my experience, many drivers who receive this ticket are also charged with leaving the scene of an accident. That's a completely separate offense, and in many cases, it's a more serious charge with more significant consequences. Now, I'm not going to go into detail about that charge in this video because it deserves its own discussion. But if you've received a failure to report ticket, you should understand that you may be dealing with more than one legal issue. So, what should you do if this happens to you? First, don't panic. If you think you should have reported the accident or you've already received a summons, start by preserving any photographs or videos of the accident. Keep all the paperwork you've received, gather any information related to the accident, and don't make assumptions about your legal situation based on what the other driver says or something you read online. If you've already been contacted by law enforcement or if you've been issued a summons, it's often a good idea to speak with an experienced attorney before making important decisions. The facts matter, and understanding your options early can make a difference. Before we wrap up, if you've been charged with failure to report an accident in Burlington, Camden, Gloucester, Salem, or Cumberland County, New Jersey, and you'd like to discuss your case, click the link in the description to schedule a consultation. I'd be happy to review your situation and discuss your options. Now, even if you understand when New Jersey law requires you to report an accident, there's something else you need to know. As I said, in my experience, people who receive a ticket for failure to report an accident are often surprised to find that they've also been charged with leaving the scene of an accident. Understanding the difference between these two charges is critical because they carry different penalties and may involve different offenses. If you don't understand the leaving the scene charge, you may not fully understand the legal situation you're facing. That's why I recommend you watch my next video on leaving the scene of an accident in New Jersey. In that video, I'll explain what the prosecutor has to prove, the penalties you could be facing, the defenses that may be available, and the mistakes people make that can make these cases much harder to defend. And click here to watch that video next.